Nintendo's game key cards and pricing are not about greed, an ex-Capcom dev argues. They're acting to protect the industry. Copium, bait, or retardation? Your choice,
three.
Extra.
All three.
Oh, you're free.
All three.
Well, let's get his comments and then I'll let you fucking go nuts. So the Switch 2's game cards, which stored a digital license for downloading a game instead of the software itself, have been the target of much criticism ever since the Nintendo's first announced them. With consumers feeling more strongly about the need for physical media and game preservation than ever, it doesn't come as a surprise that the recent decisions by Nintendo have been controversial. However, composer and former Capcom developer Masaku Sugimori recently stood in Nintendo's defense, suggesting that a lot of what the company is doing is in fact meant to, quote, protect the game and digital entertainment industries as a whole. So in a post on September 9th, he says that one point of criticism he considers legitimate when it comes to game key cards is that they can ultimately lead to a game you've rightfully purchased becoming unplayable at the publisher's discretion. At the same time, he flips the argument over by commenting, but can non-digital goods be used forever? For the most part, no. Physical things have a lifespan and they eventually break. Digital goods, on the other hand, don't have a lifespan. You ever had a fucking computer blow up? The lack of natural lifespans, in Sugumi's opinion, is a key factor behind what Nintendo is doing. He offered a breakdown for his reasoning for the company's recent decisions, including key cards and price hikes, which includes the $80 controversial Mario Kart World, or what is essentially a $90 Donkey Kong game. But key cards, preventing piracy, reducing the risk of carrying unsold stock, raising game prices, and amidst the cost, Nintendo took the lead in raising prices so other struggling game companies can follow. Bro! Anyway, that's fucking retarded. Cutting online services for past hardware. This sets a lifespan. By doing this, this becomes much easier for a game company to re-release their games on new hardware. In other words, it creates a job of porting. Holy shit! Earlier when I said, is this cope, retardation, or whatever the other one, or bait, I think it might be fucking cope. But anyway, Extra, go on.
Well, so let's get on to the greed element. Part of it I pass the blame onto Nintendo themselves, because if you go into a shop these days and you buy a micro SD card, how much does it cost for low capacity? Let's talk like 128 gigs and below.
Oh, what, in US? I don't know.
In the US, I mean, there's a lot of places like Micro Center, they'll in a lot of cases they'll give them to you for free. But like 128 gigs, 64 gigs, I mean, we're talking like, you know, under $10 US for large capacity for like 128, which I still don't think is a big capacity, but for a game it's a lot. For 64 and 32, they are they're cheap. Like I think the last time I bought a 64 for something, I think it was like a Pi I was building, it was like $3. So for them, the wholesale costs are estimated for an actual card to be $10 to $15. So if you're a developer or publisher and you're like, okay, we want to put out our game physically, well, you got to tack $10 to $15 onto that cost for the production. Again, I do think that there's merits to going with an actual physical cart, because hey, you're going to be able to sell it, you know, to people that are physical collectors. And, you know, this is a portable system. So you think about it, somebody's traveling, or, you know, they're out and about and they're like, hey, I want to pick up a new game. I don't have, you know, internet to download it. I want to, you know, buy this cartridge and just pop it in my system and start playing. And I think that was also one of the merits of the Switch, the original Switch, is that you didn't need to have the storage space on it if you were a physical collector, because, well, hey, if you're buying the games, save for some DLC you might get, and the save files themselves, and the original Switch had 32 gigs to work with there. So it wasn't like you needed an SD card. It was a nice to have, not a need to have. But you could have a large library of games that you're swapping in and out. You didn't have to worry about installs, and you didn't have to worry about storage space. So the game keycard thing really just kind of fucks that up for people that were fans of the Switch. But I think Nintendo is the culprit, because they only allowed the 64 gig size. So you have like Sega looking like, oh, hey, well, Puyo Puyo Tetris, I don't know why they don't just sell them on original Switch carts in some cases, and then unlock Switch 2 perks like a higher frame rate or 4K visuals, because I think they could do that. Like this whole thing with read speed, I think is just peak retardation, because some games don't need fast read speed, and they already have the original Switch carts available. And Nintendo themselves, for Kirby, for the two Zelda games that are out, for Mario Kart or Mario Party Jamboree. All those are sold as Switch 2 games. But if you don't, they say that it's an original Switch game card. So I don't know why everything has to be on these high capacity carts when they're not utilizing the read speed, or I don't know. But there's a lot of greed on Nintendo's end for the fact of the matter that they're forcing the publishers to eat the cost versus doing it themselves. And given Nintendo's recent showing of greed, I really don't think that these cost as much to produce as they're letting on.
I agree with that. You were fucking great.
Yeah, and then for the retardation aspect of it, just to say it's protecting the industry. Look, I do think that there's something to this because, like, again, Sony, and there's a whole site that Dude1286 and I like to promote. It's called Does It Play, and it tells you whether or not the game is actually on the disc. But Sony and Microsoft and their switch to x86, well, playing a game natively off of a disc is something that's just gone bye-bye. But whether or not the game is on the disc does make a difference. But they did kind of normalize games being on a disc, so they do have resale value. Like if you do want to sell an Xbox or a PlayStation game, fine, you can do so. And it does give people the ability, like if a license is lost, or they for whatever reason stop selling it digitally, you do have a means to track down a physical copy, and you can still play it if it's been delisted, which I think is consumer friendly and pro consumer, and that's a good advantage to physical games. But I don't like the fact that Nintendo has a very poor track record of shutting down their shops. And it's like, okay, well, you can have this game keycard, but you have this game in your collection, and say 20 years from now you go to play it and they've shut down the server, so you have a physical copy of a game but no means of actually playing it. And I don't like that aspect. I think Sony and I think Microsoft will probably be the only one that will keep these games on, hosted somewhere. I think Sony probably will for a very, very long time, but I think eventually they'll be like, yeah, we're gonna, nix support. Microsoft's been very good about it, and going back over 20 years, you can download content that, existed on the original Xbox. It's still hosted, but I don't have as much confidence in Nintendo, and I think physical does matter. And it's just,
I have zero in Nintendo when it comes to that.